The mass media is a tool for either mass destruction or mass saving,
True.
which means that the media has two parts,
Yeah, either to make
depending
or mar.
depending on the
How you
part
use
you
it.
want to see.
True.
Now, in one of the media laws and ethics, it is sacrosanct for you as a journalist to understand the terrain, the environment in which you're
You're
operating
operating
on,
in.
and ensure you do not fuel some kind of acrimony that probably might have been lying there waiting for someone to
To
scratch
spark
it.
it. This is a call to media practitioners, just like Mr. Marvelous said. It is a call to us that when you get hints of any stories, do your due diligence while having it in mind that Nigeria is like a beautiful woman with so many features, and you cannot afford to ruin one to please the other. Over time, the media has been accused of fueling negative stereotypes against different ethnic groups in Nigeria. As at November last year, Dr. Ruben Abati came under fire, like serious fire, on social medias for his comments that was said or that was alleged to have instigated or fueled the narrative that the Igbo people are not hospitable, with his comment on the fact that they don't sell land to strangers. This added fuel to the already burning fire, especially on social media, where we have people saying, "Oh, the Igbo people are hostile; they don't welcome strangers," and all of that. And then people came for him saying, at a time like this, when we are still trying to change this narrative, you are now saying this for a media guru like you." So all of these have, informed the fact that the media has been used as a tool over time to fuel certain negative narrative against some ethnic groups in Nigeria. And one would wonder, in a country like Nigeria, where we have over 250 ethnic groups and over 500 languages, we are different but similar in a lot of things. That is the fact. So, why can't we just accept our differences and our similarities and, come together in as one unified body and make this nation a better place? Why do we always have to push our divides? Well, this and many more will be part of our conversation today on the Fifth Estate Live on Akweya TV, the only broadcast channel that brings you story on history, art, and culture, analyzing how it affects our development as individuals and as a society. Of course, I am Hope Williams, and I have a seasoned journalist with me in the studio to discuss the media role in all of this narrative. That is, when it comes to pushing cultural stereotypes in Nigeria. Thank you for joining me.
My pleasure. Thanks you for having me.
Okay, so Mr. Marvelous, my guest, is a seasoned journalist. He's also a Niger Delta man. One reason why today's conversation is going to be mind blowing. So don't forget to like and share this video and also leave a comment in the comment section. Join this conversation and let's talk. So, Mr. Marvelous,
Yes, then.
like I stated earlier, over time the media has been accused that they are being used to push negative narratives or stereotype about certain ethnic groups. For instance, you could see headlines like five Igbo people or five Igbo men arrested for drug trafficking, or um, 10 Northerners set to face trial for banditry. So this is somehow driving the narrative that banditry, or anytime we talk about bandits or kidnappers, we are looking at the north. When we talk about drug peddling, and armed robbery, and the rest of them, we're looking at the east. When we're talking about human trafficking and the rest, we're looking at the south and all of that. And then all of these things seems to have pushed or for certain stereotype against these ethnic groups. So, as a media practitioner, how do you see these accusations?
Well, thank you for having me once again.
You're welcome.
Um, this particular topic we want to have justice on is very timely, and it's coming at a better time because we just started the year. So
Mhm.
whatever conversation we're going to have now will probably help some of the media practitioners and program schedulers to fixing their programs, and of course their issues they will be interrogating this in a way that it will not help to fuel some of these things. I actually listened very keenly to the Dr. Ruben Abati's issue, and the truth is this: when I was in school, I have one of these lecturer, Dr. St. Paul Christopher. He made mention that the mass media is a tool for either mass destruction or mass saving,
True.
which means that the media has two parts,
Yeah, either to
depending
make or mar.
depending on the
How you
part
use
you
it.
want to see.
True.
Now, in one of the media laws and ethics, it is sacrosanct for you as a journalist to understand the terrain, the environment in which you're
You're
operating
operating
on,
in.
and ensure you do not fuel some kind of acrimony that probably might have been lying there waiting for someone to
To
scratch
spark
it.
it. True.
You know, I for the headlines you made mention of, days are gone when we see professional journalism being practiced. A lot of I wouldn't delineate the fact, yes, this is my alma mater, but I won't begin to pat them at the back and say they are doing well. Some of them are not doing well in terms of how we saw this practice, the way it's being done. This is my 10 years on the job. And when I started this work newly, there are some headline me as a reporter will put, my editor will look at it and call me, no, remember, Marvelous, that we have three major ethnic groups in Nigeria. Three major, that does not mean we
We
don't
don't
have
have
minor
others.
ethnic groups,
Ethnic
three
group.
major ethnic groups. Whenever you want to do something or to cast your headline or to do anything reportage, understand that Nigeria is sitting on a three-legged Benz:
Mm.
the Igbos, the Hausas, and the
And the
Yorubas.
Yorubas.
Don't also forget the fact that we also have three different religions: the Islamic,
Islamic
that's a
religion.
Muslim, and a Christian, and the
Or the
traditional
traditional
worshippers.
worshippers.
So anytime you want to do things, do it having this information, so it will help you understand the environment you're practicing and not to fuel these divisive tendencies. So when I'm casting my headline and I say three Igbos did this, it says I'm trying to paint these people in a black light. There are ways you could cast your headline. It doesn't show that you are biased or you hate one group or you prefer one group to the other. I'll give you a case in hand. During the time they kidnapped some school children in Kaduna,
Yeah.
I was there when it started and how it ended. And this is a new environment. I'm not used to it. And that was my first time of going to Kaduna. And then I was sent to go and cover the whole event. So I spent over 2 weeks in Kaduna, where in fact we're staying in that community. The community is a Muslim community, is a northern community. So they have their way of life as Muslims. They have their way of life as
As
northern
northerners.
people, and I'm not used to it. So when I went there, the first thing I need to do is to understand the terrain and the environment. What are the do's and the
And
don'ts?
don'ts.
What do you people abhor in this environment and what do you not abhor? I had to ask questions. They told me one or two things, which I imbibed, used it, and it made my coverage eventful. But in a place where I don't ask questions, because I am a Christian going into a Muslim terrain, I should drop away whatever that has to do with my Christianity. I'm in a new terrain. When you go to Rome, you behave like Rome.
A
So I
Rome.
need to adopt another life entirely so as to fit in into that environment. And when I finished, I left. The same thing when I went to Kano State during the time they arraigned Ganduje. Then I got a wind that there was a strange illness that struck in what they call Gunduse community.
Yeah, I saw that report
Okay,
too.
so when I got to Gunduse community, is a northern community, is a Muslim community. I had to also apply the same thing I had learned in
In
Kaduna
Kaduna.
to this place, and it made my stay there worthwhile. So we, the media, is the only profession in the constitution that the constitution had given enormous responsibility to hold the government to account, to inform, to educate, to entertain. We are change makers. So people look up to us as people who give them concise information, and not an information that will further, jeopardize the issues we're having in Nigeria. As I'm talking to you, Nigeria, the way it is configured at present, is tense. There are
Yeah, very tense.
insecurity, cries of insecurity, cries of hunger. The other time we had a hunger protest. All these things has, charged up the polity. And when little thing that has to do with sensationalism, prejudices, biases comes up, it opens up wounds that people do not want to go back to. So we as a media, when we understand the kind of power we have, we should use that power for something positive and not negative.
Okay, I quite agree with you on that. But then, recently I attended a training, courtesy of Search for Common Ground. They had this refresher training for journalists when it comes to addressing issues like this, sensitive issues like this. And then during that conversation, that training, sorry, I had a conversation with one of the journalists, and then this journalist pointed to me. She said something. She said, some of these stories naturally, their original form, that they have this stereotype already. Like when these stories come in its original form, they already have the stereotypes in them. There's already a bias in the originality of that story. So at times it seems like a dilemma for journalists, right? Like the situation of standing between the deep blue sea and the devil. So how do you think that journalists can um play around this situation when a story breaks and it comes to them as a story that has cultural or religious biases attached to it already? How did they break it? How did they handle this story so as not to fuel the tension that is already there?
All right, very quickly. Of course, this is a time where everybody is a journalist in Nigeria.
Yes, that's
You
another
know,
issue.
of course,
That's another issue.
both the professionals and non-professionals,
Non-professionals, as
once
long
you
as you have a
have a
phone.
phone and you can tweet, you can go online easily, you can bring out your phone, something happened. Yes, it is happening right now. I'm at so place, I'm at so place. Everybody is now a citizen journalist as well, because citizens journalists,
Journalist, yes.
this is where the professionals come in. And I think the National Broadcasting Corporation, the Nigeria Guild of Editors, and we as a journalist need to have this conversation and begin to find a way to remove quackery or to push out these people from this profession, because they are the ones that are bringing this profession to disrepute. If you have a professional who is handling an issue, just like I'll give you a case in hand. There was a time something happened in Abuja here, and that they burned somewhere at Apo Mechanic. They were having an issue, something happened. And I went to the field. I was asking the woman at Apo Junction, very close to the fruit market. And the woman said, yes, it's outside people that burnt these things down and all and all and all. Already, you are bringing
Yes, the stereotype
of
coming in. Yes,
course.
the bias is already
So
there.
I'm like, how do you know they are Hausa? She said they are speaking
Hausa.
Hausa. And I now said, okay, another one happened somewhere. She was telling me that, it's because of that thing that they burnt the Apo Mechanic village, because at that mechanic side is usually these people from the southeast that do their
They have
mechanic
mechanic
work
work
there.
there.
So because of that, those ones got angry and also retaliated. Before you know it, it started
Like a
becoming
reprisal.
probably an intertribal something.
Mm.
So I understood my place as a journalist, that when I put out that information the way I got it on the field, without washing it, just like I went to the market and got a vegetable, it must have had sand, flies might have perched on it. So I need to wash it, I need to prepare it so that when I cook this food and bring it out, even you eating it will love it. So I asked the woman, you said these people are Hausa people because they are speaking Hausa
Hausa.
language. I said, even me too, I can speak one or two lines of Hausa. And when I speak, you might think I'm from Hausa, I'm from the north. So when I did my investigations further, I found out that it was not even Hausa boys, neither was it Igbo boys. It's just a group of arrant miscreants who saw what was happening as an
And cash out on
opportunity
it.
to, perpetrate crime. And that was how I reported the case. That was how I reported it. At the end of the day, it turned out to be true. But if I was not professional enough to handle that situation to cure some of those biases,
Mm.
I would have also further tensed the situation on ground. Just like I told you, in everything you're doing, no matter what profession you belong to, you must be responsible. You must align yourself to the ethics of the profession. Whatever that profession say, this is not what we don't do. Do not do it because of anything. Of course, and there are, okay, let me also give you an example. There are times you go out on field to do a story, and probably that story, just like, let me give you an example, the 2023 presidential election that happened, and
See, there were so many biases,
of
so
course,
many biases around that story.
I'm from the South South. I'm from Opoponkoro, local government area of Rivers State. I had spent all my life, almost all my life in the Southeast. So you could have judged I am an Igbo person by way of where I
Okay,
spent my
okay.
life.
Let me pause you there. So,
So
guys, I met I met Marvelous at the presidential election petition court in 2023, and trust me, I argued with him for almost 1 week. That guy, you are not from Rivers State, because how can you be from Rivers State and you are speaking Igbo so clean? So clean, so clean. There's no comma. The Igbo was so clean. And you agree with me that Marvelous does not look like a South guy. Like, man, come on, come on.
all right.
Anyways, this is a call to media practitioners, just like Mr. Marvelous said. It's a call to us that when you get hints of any stories, do your due diligence while having it in mind that Nigeria is like a beautiful woman with so many features, and you cannot afford to ruin one to please the other. And like he said, treat your story like with the vegetable you buy in the market. In fact, treat it like the vegetable you harvested from your garden. Because if you like say that market one, they clean am small. Treat it like the one you harvested from your garden. It still has all the sand and all of it. Clean it very well, while bearing in mind that we have three major languages and every other language. In fact, all our language na major, na just we just wan stand on east, west, north and south. And also realize that we have three major religions in this country. So when telling your stories, please have this at the back of your mind so we don't constantly feel negative stereotypes and biases in our country that is already tensed.
All right.
So let's
Okay.
continue.
So what I was saying is this. During that presidential election petitions court, there were a lot of biases, there
Of
were a lot of
course.
prejudices,
Mm-hmm.
and naturally, from where I'm coming from, one of the people that came to court, people like P.O.B., he's from the Southeast, and I have an affiliation in the
The
Southeast.
Southeast.
So it is only natural for me to have 70% of my professional allegiance to where I'm coming from. That means it also affects in my reportage whenever I'm giving report on something, and maybe at the end of, there are times I go to court to monitor the process and things happen, I get angry, I mean what is
What's
happening and
going
all
on?
and all. But what helps me when I come back to do my report is the fact that it is not about you. That is the mistake most journalists do. Just like what Dr. Ruben Abati did. There are ways you could tell that story. There are ways you could say that and people not feel injured.
Mm-hmm.
You don't say it, you put it in the mouth of people. Like there are some people who feel that there are some certain ethnic group in Nigeria who do not associate or accommodate themselves. And if somebody had told you that thing, you track him up. So it is that person saying it, not you. So when I come back to the office and I want to write this report, especially at the court section, there are times I feel, emotional when I'm writing. But when I write, I had to tell myself, it is not about you, Marvelous. When I'm writing, is it fair to all?
Mm-hmm.
Have I given Mr. A the opportunity to plead his case? Have I given Mr. B the opportunity to plead his case? And let the viewers be the judges. I like what you said in your opening statement. just like God is a righteous God. You remember the case of Job, and when they said when devil came,
Came, yeah.
they brought in their strong reasons, and that is what a judge in the law court does. He looks at your fact, look at the case you're pleading, and makes informed decisions based on those
Yeah,
facts you
those
pleaded.
facts.
So
True.
when I'm writing, is it fair to all concerned? Have I given Mr. A the opportunity? Have I given Mr. B the opportunity? And I do not make conclusions from my emotions or what I feel. I make conclusions based on the empirical facts that are already pleaded. When I was in school, there's what we call three-step mass media flow theory, and that theory states that because with our audiences are heterogeneous in nature,
Of
you do not
course.
know, as we are talking, I do not know how many people that are listening or they are going to watch this
This
program.
program.
I don't even know their level of assimilation, professional assimilation, and education and otherwise. So once I have an information, this is an information already. So it's like a three layer. So the first layer, we know this information. We've already identified that there are certain ways journalists go about this their practice that fuels the already, cooked and heated arguments that we have
Argument.
in the polity. So we get this information. That is number one. Then number two, the second leg, we are the journalists. We already know what the problem is. We tune the problem, we carve the problem in a way that we bring it down to the people so that people who are the audience are the ones who are making these informed decisions based on what we are saying. So if what I'm saying is going to help you make an informed decision, I should be able to give you the information without withholding anything. All right. So if we bring it down, we water it down to a language people understand, then the last part of the three steps is now the audience. They are the ones that are taking this information. They are the ones that will give you feedback
Digest it.
based on what
Yeah.
they understand. So these are some of the things we as journalists, that was how we are trained. And sorry to say this, some of the people who are found guilty in some of these things are not trained journalists. Not like you studied linguistics, English, and somebody feels like you have a good voice. Come
And
to
brings
the
you into the
studio, or
studio.
come and voice, come and do this, come and do this. But most of us who went through the 4 walls of the university, from the one we are taught some of the do's and don'ts. When we are practicing, our own is different from just someone who just studied English or who understands how to speak language
I
and come
really
and do
think,
this.
on this note, I really think that media houses that have engaged people who did not study mass communication or journalism in school should encourage them to go back. At least we have Institute of Journalism,
Journalism.
so they could go back and do a crash course and understand what the professional ethics is or are. And I'm also of the opinion, even though somebody will always argue, I have someone who doesn't think it's necessary. I'm always of the opinion that we should regulate our social media. In this country, we should regulate our social media. But I have somebody that will say, no, never. Nobody's forcing you to. But I really think we should. Because again, like you said earlier, we have too many citizen journalists. That is not a problem. Because as a journalist, you cannot be everywhere at the same time. So these citizen journalists are quite important and they are helpful in your news gathering. But there should also be a regulation
Now
that
let me
guides
come
it.
to that. There is what we call developmental journalism. There are some of our reporters and our media practitioners, they have become so lazy because of social media. There's what
Mm.
we call armchair reporting. Staying in your house. He said this, he said that. Oh, you brought your phone, you type headline, 5 injured, 2 dead. Did this. You brought pictures, you brought video, probably had an old video. Fiam, you've sent it. People start making comments, you've gathering the clout. No, that is not how the practice is done. When you have a wind of an information, you go out on the field there to investigate. That is why we have investigative journalism, and you fact check these things these people are saying. How true is it?
Is
Because there
it?
are some people who go and doctor videos that happened 3-4 years back
And
and
bring
bring
it.
it. Now, on my concluding part, some of these prejudices you can't really cure them per se, but there are things you can do. Just like I'm telling you, when Iwe Rohim came up, which is a newspaper for the West speaking Yorubas, it was a newspaper that was brought out to help give information or pass that information to the West, and also somehow to extrapolate the Western ideology. And then Dr. Nanda Azikiwe of blessed memory also came out with Zig's pilot also to extrapolate the Southeast ideology and
Southeast.
all of these. As of today in Nigeria, there are some TV stations, once you make mention of them, they say, leave these ones. They are pro
We know.
Buhari, they are anti Tinubu, they are pro Tinubu, they are this, they are that.
Yeah,
There are
true.
some newspapers you see today, they are also used to further, past the ideologies of either the West, the North, or the
or the
South. I don't
South.
want to make mention of names, but we know them. So there are some people who you want to invite you for a program and say, which medium do you cover? I say this, they say no, leave these ones, because people already know that these ones are biased. And that is not what we should be doing in Nigeria today. Whatever we are doing in terms of our reportage, in terms of the content we put out, we should make sure that those contents are content that will further bring us
Us
together
together.
and not to divide us.
Quite a strong one. We should ensure to make content that will further bring us together and not to divide us. Like I said earlier, Nigeria is like a beautiful woman with so many endowments, and we cannot afford to ruin one feature to please the other. It's been a wonderful time with Mr. Marvelous on the Fifth Estate Live, and I am sure you enjoyed the conversation. So don't forget to like and share this video and leave a comment in the comment section, and also follow us on all our social media platforms to also read interesting stories. You can also check out Akweya TV website where we have very interesting stories. But before we leave the studio, I would want us to know that Nigeria is like a beautiful woman, blessed with indescribable and immeasurable beauty. From the Saharas of the north to the highlands of the east, then to the coastal lagoons of the west, to the swamp and mangrove of the south. All of this has made us so beautifully endowed and made us an envy to other nations, even though some of them no go gree sharp. With our cultural diversity that is supposed to be our strength, beautiful culture, elegant personality to showcase our pride and strength. So, let us ensure to preserve this beautiful cultural fabric of our dear nation. God bless Nigeria. Do have a wonderful day. Bye bye.